Hey everybody, welcome back to Let's Talk Physical Media. My name is John, and it was a busy week in the world of physical media this week. I mean, we got so many big announcements when it comes to 4K Blu-rays from Shout and Scream Factory, but we're going to start it off with my favorite film of all time, and that is The Terminator. It pretty much got confirmed that it's going to be coming to 4K Blu-ray in November. That's what I'm hearing. It's going to be coming in November. It's going to be coming to 4K Steelbook, courtesy of Warner Brothers. So we had kind of heard these rumors that Warner Brothers were going to be the ones to do it. And right now it looks like it's just going to be a steelbook. But again, we have no official announcement yet. All we got was a Zavvi pre-order that you could do right now on steelbook, but that was really it. We didn't get any other confirmation, nothing from Warner Brothers. So these are still rumors, but it's pretty much confirmed that we are going to get the Terminator on 4K Blu-ray. I saw the steelbook kind of floating around where it was just the original movie poster, which is all I really hope for. They don't need to do anything fancy with this one. I just want that original movie poster on a steelbook if it's only going to be on steelbook. You know, that's kind of becoming the new thing, is that they're just kind of releasing movies only on steelbook, and that is it. We'll talk a little bit about that in a little while, but I am really excited to finally be getting the Terminator on 4K Blu-ray, and it looks like it's going to be November, which is fine with me, as long as it's in pristine condition, and, you know, James Cameron doesn't try any, fancy stuff with this one. He just gives us just a new 4K transfer of the camera negative with some HDR, maybe some Dolby Vision sprinkled in there, hopefully a brand new Dolby Atmos track, but if not, just a new audio track would be fine. I'm not asking for too much. Maybe some new extras. You know, if he wants to get a little bit crazy, I don't really care. I just hope that this isn't a swing and a miss. You know, we've already had too many failures when it comes to James Cameron 4K Blu-rays, but he's also had some success, so it's what we like to call a mixed bag. But obviously, I want the Terminator to be the greatest 4K Blu-ray release of all time.
This is it. Don't get scared now.
But that's probably asking a lot because it is coming from a major label. It's not coming from a boutique label. Like if Arrow Video got their hands on this one, that's who I really wanted to do it. I would thought, it'd probably be coming out in the best condition possible. But Warner Brothers, when it comes to their physical transfers and their visuals and audio, they usually do a pretty good job, which means it probably will only have HDR10. But again, this is all speculation because we haven't gotten any confirmation. But things that we did get confirmed this week came from Scream and Shout Factory announcing their August 2024 releases. And the big ones that stood out to me, first up, is Poltergeist 2. The original Poltergeist came to 4K Blu-ray in 2022, and that was actually from Warner Brothers. Thought that was a fantastic transfer. Now, the sequel, it's not as beloved as the original, included by me. I don't love Poltergeist 2 that much. I think it's a good movie. I think it's actually got some really scary moments, but it's not one I run back to all the time. In fact, I don't think I've seen Poltergeist 2 in like 7 or 8 years because I definitely haven't seen it since I've lived in this house. So when I eventually pick up Poltergeist 2 on 4K Blu-ray, it'll be the first time that I revisited it in a pretty damn long time, but I will definitely be picking that up. A little surprised about Poltergeist 3. I don't know what's going on with that. Is that like caught up in some sort of rights issue as well? I'm not entirely sure. I can live without Poltergeist 3 on 4K Blu-ray. I understand that the completionists out there are probably like, what the hell? Why aren't we getting Poltergeist 3 on 4K Blu-ray? Poltergeist 3 I've talked about in the past. It kind of leaves a bad taste in my mouth because of what the director said about that movie. But I would still like to revisit it at some point. And of course, I would like to, if I'm going to rewatch it on 4K Blu-ray. But still, really excited for Poltergeist 2. And we also got announcements for Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey, which is the sequel to Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, which Shout Factory had already given us on 4K Blu-ray. But now we're going to be getting Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey on 4K Blu-ray and Bill and Ted Face the Music, the sequel that came out in, I believe, 2020, which is actually a fantastic legacy sequel. One of the better legacy sequels that we've ever gotten. Much better than Keanu Reeves' other legacy sequel, which is Matrix, whatever the hell that one was, Resurrections. Terrible movie. I know some people like it, but I didn't like that sequel, and I was so disappointed leaving the theater in that one. But I was not disappointed in Bill and Ted Face the Music. I thought that movie was fantastic. It looked a little bit cheap, but you know what? I actually didn't see it on the big screen because I believe you could only get that on premium on demand at the time because theaters were closed, if I remember correctly. So that's really cool. I'm really glad that's coming to 4K Blu-ray. It's going to be really fun to actually finally revisit the entire trilogy, in one sitting on 4K Blu-ray, thanks to Shout Factory. And you could buy all three of them in one big package, and I might actually buy that, even though I already have Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure on 4K Blu-ray, because it would be cool to have that nice packaging. but it's really going to come down to what's cheaper. So if it's cheaper just to buy 2 and 3 on 4K Blu-ray on their own separately than it is to buy all 3, then that's the route I'll probably go. But if it's close, I'm probably just going to get all 3 movies on 4K Blu-ray and then give away Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. Either way, or I'm really excited about that. And another movie I've never seen but got announced for 4K Blu-ray is The Last Unicorn. I actually thought this was a joke when I saw the title, to be 100% honest with you guys, but yeah, it's a real movie and people are really excited for that to be coming to 4K Blu-ray. If you guys have seen that movie, let me know. Is it something that I should check out? Another one that I saw in theaters is only getting a Blu-ray release, and this is pretty cool. This is a Seth Rogen movie, Observe and Report, which actually has Ray Liotta in it as well, and Anna Faris, and she's really funny. That movie, though, I remember seeing that in theaters and being a little bit uncomfortable with it, so I don't know if I'm excited to revisit that movie. I do remember liking it at the time, but just, it was a little bit, it felt a little dirty to me, and that's kind of the point. It was a dark comedy, and speaking of dark comedies, Death to Smoochie is also coming to Blu-ray. I think Danny DeVito actually directed this movie, if I'm correct. I know he's actually in the movie, but I think he also directed the movie, so that's also coming to Blu-ray. And then I'm sure a lot of people are excited about this, especially the Chuck Norris fans. One of his better movies, The Delta Force, is going to be coming to 4K Blu-ray. My favorite Chuck Norris movie is still Lone Wolf McQuade. I don't think that has a 4K Blu-ray release yet, but the day that comes, I'll be getting that on 4K Blu-ray. I don't know if I'll be buying the Delta Force, although that is a really exciting announcement, especially for the Chuck Norris fans out there. And we're also going to be getting some steelbooks for Hackers and Dragonheart. I'm pretty sure these are the same ones that were previously released. They were exclusive steelbooks, but now they're going to do another run with them. So if you missed them the first time, you can pick them up now. I actually don't have either of those movies on 4K Blu-ray, so we'll see how the wallet's doing in August, because it's looking like it's going to be an expensive month already with all of these announcements. And another rumor that we got this week, and this didn't have any confirmation, but this actually was released on the Criterion Collection way back when, and that is The Third Man. And this is actually one of Orson Welles' better performances. He didn't direct this one. This one came out in 1949 and is directed by Carol Reed, and it's a fantastic film. Some of the best shot noir films that I have ever seen. It's definitely worth your time if you've never seen this movie. So I'm pretty sure it's rumored that Studio Canal is going to be working on a 4K Blu-ray release for that later this year. More than likely, just a UK only release, and eventually maybe it'll come back to the Criterion Collection on 4K Blu-ray with that Studio Canal transfer. Sometimes the Criterion Collection will split the cost with Studio Canal, and let's hope they do, because The Third Man is a lot of people's favorite film out there, and a lot of people really enjoy that movie, and I know a lot of people probably haven't seen that film, so if that comes to 4K Blu-ray, we are definitely going to be lucky, because that's a fantastic film, and it's actually one of the better noir films that have ever come out. So I'm looking forward to that one coming to 4K Blu-ray. So let's hope that rumor comes true. And another one I think might have been confirmed, and this is from Kino Lorber, and if you're a big Jean-Claude Van Damme fan, Sudden Death is supposedly coming to 4K Blu-ray courtesy of Kino Lorber. I absolutely love Sudden Death. I always forget about this movie, but when I was reminded of it pretty recently, I was like, holy shit, that's right. Sudden Death is actually a really good Jean-Claude Van Damme movie. And I always kind of rope in Jean-Claude Van Damme with Steven Seagal, which is really unfair to Jean-Claude Van Damme. I don't like Steven Seagal at all, an actor or as a person. He just doesn't seem like a great guy to me. And I've never really enjoyed any of his movies except for Under Siege. But again, it's not really because of him. I just really think it's a very well-directed film. And it's got some other performances from other actors like Tommy Lee Jones that are really good in that movie as well. So it's not really Steven Seagal that's selling me on that movie. But Jean-Claude Van Damme and Sudden Death, this is a movie that takes place during, I think it's the Stanley Cup Finals. It's definitely at a hockey game, and a terrorist attack happens. And what do you know? Jean-Claude Van Damme, he's there. He's going to save the day. So Sudden Death is going to be coming to 4K Blu-ray. So that's pretty cool. Hopefully Sudden Death really is coming to 4K Blu-ray. Also announced was Can't Hardly Wait. This is coming from Sony, and Sony has kind of released movies similar to this in the past. They've actually released this year Steel Magnolias. In the past, they've released My Best Friend's Wedding. So Sony has released some great 4K transfers, so, very similar movies to Can't Hardly Wait. So at least that's coming to 4K Blu-ray as well, and Sony has some of the best transfers when it comes to studio releases, so I'm really looking forward to that one. That's one I probably won't pick up on day one, but if it's ever on sale, I'll probably end up grabbing it, so keep an eye out for that. And that was really it as far as physical media announcements, but man, it really was a busy week in the world of 4K Blu-ray announcements, and even some pretty good Blu-ray announcements. But what was your favorite? What stood out to you guys? I know for me, it's obviously the Terminator. I am so excited for that to be finally coming to 4K Blu-ray. Even if it's not coming in originally when it was supposed to be coming, or at least rumored to be coming in August, I can wait till November. I just hope it's a great transfer. That's all I ask for. I don't need too much. I'm a simple man. Like I said, you know, some little things in there I'm hoping for. Let's just hope it's not a catastrophe because it's happened before. And before we get into the Q&A portion of this week's show, I thought, you know what, it'd be pretty fun to show off some stuff that I actually got in that I'm going to be reviewing in the future here on the channel, because it is a lot, and I've only been able to get out like 2 or 3 4K Blu-ray reviews each week, but I'm really like falling behind because I'm getting more stuff in. Vinegar Syndrome even sent me some of the stuff that I pre-ordered back in February that's finally here on 4K Blu-ray, so I'm going to show you guys a couple things that just came in that you'll get reviews for in the next couple of weeks. And the first one is Rent-A-Pal, and this was actually a gift from Kevin Kruger. He sent this to me, and I'm going to be reviewing it here on the channel. You'll get that review this week. I'm looking forward to checking this one out. I have actually no idea what this movie is about. I didn't even check out a trailer. I haven't read anything about it. I'm going into this completely blind, which is the way I like to go into a lot of movies, because you go into it with no expectations, and that's what I'm doing with this one, and it looks like it's a pretty good movie based on the poster on the front, so I'm pretty excited, and thank you, Kevin, for sending me that. I really appreciate that, buddy. And one I already shot a review for is Narc. This 4K Blu-ray is fantastic. Spoiler alert for when the review comes out, but this one is great, and I love the artwork on this. This came from Arrow Video. Narc is a very underrated film as it is, and it's most known for its really shocking opening, and really is a shocking opening, but the entire movie is great, well written. This one is actually a crime noir film as well. It starts in a place that you never expect that ending to end up as it does. It seems like it's going to be a real simple story, but in the end, it is more complex, and all these characters, like Ray Liotta, again, talked about Ray Liotta, he gives a great performance in this movie as well. I would even say it's probably his second best performance, only behind Goodfellas, which will always be Ray Liotta's best performance. I mean, it's Goodfellas. And another review that you'll get definitely this week is La Femme Nikita. This came to 4K Blu-ray courtesy of Sony. Like I was saying just a little bit ago, Sony gives us some of the best transfers when it comes to the studio releases. I still think the boutique labels are leading the way, but when it comes to studio releases, Sony always knocks it out of the park. It's very rare you get a bad Sony 4K Blu-ray release, and this only came in this beautiful steelbook, which, you know, early reactions, I'm not the most impressed with it. It's just kind of plain in my opinion, but you can only get it on 4K Blu-ray with the steelbook. Earlier this week, I reviewed Bad Lieutenant, which is probably my favorite or second favorite Abel Ferrara film. Now, there's one Abel Ferrara film that I've only seen one other time, and that is Deadly Game. And I decided to pick it up on Blu-ray, and I really was not expecting this. If you look right here, when you slide this out, this is like an actual book. And first of all, it smells like a book as well, which is pretty crazy. It's got, you know, it really does look like a book. You come inside, this is all reading material right here, and then you get the one Blu-ray disc. It is a new 4K transfer, that's what they said, but unfortunately this is only a Blu-ray, probably because not too many people have heard of Deadly Game, which is understandable. It's not one of Abel Ferrara or very well reviewed best films, but I'm pretty excited to check this one out, so hopefully I get to review this one in the future. Either way, or man, the artwork on this, and also I haven't peeled this off yet, but this is basically just, you know, one of those J cards. So, I mean, I'm not really too big of a fan of what they did here, because, like, if you look in the back, it's popping up, but the sticker is on there pretty damn tight, so I'm a little bit, I'll have to handle that pretty soon. And then Vinegar Syndrome broke out the fine china for Navy SEALs. This is one that a lot of people, including myself, are looking forward to. Stars Charlie Sheen. This isn't really a very well beloved film, but this is a very entertaining movie that I'm looking forward to finally revisiting. And man, again, look at this beautiful case that they got on here. This is one of those Vinegar Syndrome collector's case, so when you pop it open and then you come inside, it's got a nice slipcover underneath as well, and then you have the disc underneath. You get reading material on the inside. So they really gave you everything you could ever hope for with this 4K Blu-ray, which I'm really excited to check out. This is a review that should be coming in the next couple of weeks as well. And speaking of things that look like books, like Crimson Peak from Arrow Video on 4K Blu-ray, this is a Guillermo del Toro film. This is one of his better films that really doesn't get appreciated. I really think that, you know, this kind of started the best run of Guillermo del Toro's career. We had this, Pacific Rim was right around this time. This is just before The Shape of Water, you know, when Guillermo del Toro won Best Picture, and before Nightmare Alley. So this really, I feel like, is in the same vein of those two films, Nightmare Alley and The Shape of Water. But what a lot of people were expecting was a straightforward horror film with this movie, and unfortunately it just turned out to be a romantic horror film, and I really appreciate it for that. But a lot of people were a little bit upset. Still got incredible production design. I still think it's overall a great film. Hoping to review this one pretty soon as well, but like I said, we got a lot of movies to review here on the channel. I just wanted to show you guys some of the casing on this because the packaging for all of those movies is fantastic, and they are doing a great job at the packaging, mainly the boutique labels, but I've noticed with the main studios as well, all the big labels like Warner Brothers, Sony, Paramount, they've been giving us a lot more collector's edition. Even Anchorman, which is coming to 4K Blu-ray, is going to have a really nice collector's edition, and I really didn't expect that. I thought they were just going to put it out with a slipcover and just, send it on its way, but maybe they're catering more to the collectors now. Maybe they realize it's very niche, as, kind of what we were expecting, kind of doing exactly what vinyl has been doing, and they're just releasing a lot more collector's edition, because those are the people, they're the days of people just walking into a store and noticing like a movie that's on sale and be like, oh, we like that movie, we saw it in theaters, and they'll look at the DVD and they'll be like, it's $16, all right, we'll buy it. They have little movie collections. Everybody used to have little movie collections, but in the world of streaming, most people, the average Joe, they just have Netflix or Hulu or Paramount Plus or whatever the hell else they want to have. And they don't really have those small physical media collections anymore. And they probably don't even have a Blu-ray player in their house. I'm talking about the common Joe. Now, us collectors, we're here for these big releases. We're buying them on day one, especially if it's a movie we absolutely love. Like, Crimson Peak. That probably has a very small audience. Not many of us love the movie Crimson Peak and are going to buy this beautiful collector's edition. But it's available to us thanks to places like Arrow Video. I mean, Navy Seals is on 4K Blu-ray and a beautiful collector set. And only Vinegar Syndrome would ever give us something like that, or Showgirls, or Deadly Game is getting a beautiful Blu-ray release. That's not a very well-beloved Abel Ferrara film. That's a very controversial film. I mean, it stars Madonna. So, I mean, how many people are talking about Deadly Game? For it to look that good and smell that good, it smells great. I can't sell short how well that book smells. It's just phenomenal. That's probably why we're getting less slipcover editions, and movies are just coming to 4K Blu-ray in steelbooks or in collector sets where it costs a little bit more, but they're probably figuring that mostly the collectors are getting. Like, Rocky 5 and Rocky Balboa, they're coming to 4K steelbook. They're not getting, regular slipcover editions. You can only get them in that or in the new Ultimate Knockout Collection set. So it's becoming like more niche, and I think that's kind of why we're also seeing the prices start to rise a little bit. So I can honestly see that coming. It's like a slow shift, which is kind of always what happens when it comes to physical media. Things just take a long time. It's like a glacier. It's just moving so slow. It's finally it looks like 4K Blu-rays are finally taking a bigger piece of the pie in the physical media market. I really think I saw something about Lionsgate, their profits being up from physical media. Lionsgate really has embraced physical media. We've seen them with those beautiful slip covers, the slip covers over the steelbook. Some of the best artwork has come out of Lionsgate. They have really embraced physical media, and it's nice to see that it's paying off for them. I've just kind of noticed this shift in the packaging and in the pricing, that it just kind of feels like physical media has become a little bit more niche, and it looks like movies in general are just becoming a little bit more niche, and that's okay. Worlds change. I'm sure reading back in the day was the biggest form of entertainment. Now it's probably, takes up an even smaller piece of the pie than movies. And a lot of people read. That's one of Faith's favorite things to do in the world, is read. She's always reading a book. She reads like 3 of them a week. But, for me, I want to watch 10 movies a week. And that's my favorite medium. That's your guys' favorite medium. And, if it's more niche, it's more niche. That's just the way it goes. But as long as they keep giving us these beautiful collector's editions, I guess we can't really complain. It's just, I'm going to complain a little bit about the prices, especially if they don't give us enough for what they're charging. But if they're going to give us these great sets like this, at least I can appreciate the pricing. And this is all before I check out the discs themselves. If I go in there and the disc is horrible, then it's all for naught. But that's my little rant about that. Let's get into the Q&A portion of this week's show. And I think this is a great place to start, and it's from @Sprazy110. If you could create a Frankenstein label using the best parts of your favorite boutique labels, what would you choose from the following categories? When it comes to transfers, well, if I'm going to pick the one who I think does the best transfers overall, it's tough because I feel like Blue Underground or Vinegar Syndrome might do the best overall transfers, like visually. But I think the best overall when it comes to everything, I'm going to say in transfer-wise, because they do great jobs with the visuals and the audio, I'm going to go with Arrow Video. I think Arrow Video is the best. I would say Criterion, but Criterion might do a great job with the visuals, but I don't think they upgrade their audio enough. So I'm going to go with Arrow Video on this one. MSRP pricing. Well, I've always felt like Shout Factory is overall fair. Sometimes they'll slip in a Shout Select and charge $27 with no slipcover, no reversible cover art, and just give us one disc. But for the most part, they'll give us 2 discs, really nice artwork. They really will pour their heart and soul into it. So I've always felt like they've priced their stuff pretty well. Kino Lorber is always kind of stuck around that $27 mark as well. Criterion can be very highly priced, but they do give you a lot. So if I'm going to go overall with MSRP pricing, yeah, I'm going to go Shout Factory. Simple Shout Factory on that. Sales. Well, Criterion doesn't really always have their own sales. Their sales are through Barnes & Noble. Kino Lorber has a couple sales each year. Shout Factory has... Actually, it's Shout Factory. They have some of the best sales, and then obviously their Shocktober sale is one of the best all year. So I'm going to definitely go with Shout Factory on that. Kino Lorber does have a lot of great sales, but I'm going to go with Shout Factory, Scream Factory in that one again. Special features. Now, for this, I would have said the Criterion Collection, but Criterion hasn't been giving it. It's either them or Arrow, and I feel like Arrow Video has given us a lot more lately, a lot of new stuff, so I'm going to say Arrow Video on special features as well. Packaging. I guess I'm going to sound a little bit like a fan, but you know what? No, Vinegar Syndrome. Vinegar Syndrome, they have the best packaging when they want to whip out the fine china, but they pour their heart and soul in the packaging. Absolutely Vinegar Syndrome. And catalog. Man. Well, that I'm going to have to pick the Criterion Collection. I'm a big fan of what they put out. You know, those underseen films. Films that you could really for like the deep cinephiles. Now listen, Arrow Video, they probably put out maybe a lot more of my favorite films, but overall catalog, I mean, Shout Factory is great too. And then even if you go, I mean, Second Sight is great. It's hard for this one, but I'm going to go Criterion on that. That was a great question. That was a great question, Sprazy. Thank you so much, buddy. And this one's from Mr. Smelly Potato. And he said, rank these classic movies. And I made a list, of course, with this. And we'll start from the bottom and work our way up. At number 10, just because I'm not a big musical fan. Now, given, you got to understand, something's got to be last. All 10 of these movies are classics for a reason, so they're all good. So this is just really how I would rank them, and, you know, what I like more. So at number 10, The Sound of Music. You know, it's a good movie. I remember the first time I saw that movie, I actually saw that in music class in school. Number 9, King Kong. I've told you guys, I like the 70s King Kong the best. That one is my favorite. The 1930s King Kong, it's great for the time. It's still a good movie. You know, it's not one that I'm going to run back to, though. At number 8, I got Treasure of the Sierra Madre. This one's directed by the great John Huston, and this movie had a huge inspiration on a lot of other directors, including Steven Spielberg, and it is still a fantastic film. Obviously, I like the other movies more than it, but you can't really sell short the Treasure of the Sierra Madre. And at number 7, Seven Samurai. This one is a Akira Kurosawa film, his most famous film. And what this movie did for like the action genre or even westerns cannot be undersold. It's, you know, I don't think it's aged that gracefully. I think it's really aged, you know, it shows its age, but the inspiration of this movie on so many other movies is, it cannot be understated. And the story is still fantastic, to the point that The Magnificent Seven is a United States remake of Seven Samurai. At number 6, The Wizard of Oz. I love this movie, but something has to be at number 6, and it's The Wizard of Oz. This is still a fantastic film. This is one of the rare classics that still holds up to this very day that new people discover each and every single year. You know, this is really one that has stood the test of time. It keeps getting passed down generation to generation, even to people who don't really love film. Number 5, Rebel Without a Cause. I actually reviewed this 4K Blu-ray last year on the channel. It is a really underrated film. I mean, it gets rated pretty high. When we're talking James Dean, Rebel Without a Cause always comes up. But this really is still a great film, and it really just shows you how generations have changed as time has gone on. And James Dean, he just had it. It's such a shame. When you watch it, and you can just see that some actors, they had it, and they just had their lives cut short. It's very tragic when you watch this movie, and he gets into a game of chicken, which is two people just, you know, whoever turns first, or, you know, or they die. Well, James Dean didn't die, but he ended up dying tragically in a car accident. So it's like, it's almost ironic, that scene in this movie, and it just really just goes to show you how short life can really be. You know, got a little bit dark there for a second. Number 4, Psycho. I mean, Alfred Hitchcock's masterpiece. To put this at number 4 was a little bit tough. I know some people are probably going to be a little upset with that ranking, but I mean, I have to be honest. I like the other 3 movies just a little bit more. I mean, Psycho's still a masterpiece. It's one of the greatest horror films of all time. At number 3, though, I had Casablanca. I love this movie, and I love this movie more and more each and every single time I watch this movie. I didn't watch this movie when I was a kid. It wasn't until I was an adult and I really wanted to become a cinephile. Everybody has to check out Casablanca if you want to be a cinephile. So, of course, I watched it, and I was like, This movie could come out in 2020 or whenever the hell I watched it. It was probably like 2010. But when you watch this movie, it can come out right now in 2024 and be as good and be as beloved as when it came out in the 1940s. It's just that good. Humphrey Bogart is fantastic in this movie. It's so well directed, so well acted, it's so well shot. The 4K Blu-ray from Warner Brothers is fantastic. So that's why Casablanca is number 3. And then number 2 and number 1. And number 2 is just creeping up on number 1. So number 2 is The Night of the Hunter, which would put Citizen Kane at number 1. But these two movies are great. I think The Night of the Hunter is the best shot black and white film of all time. And I've even said that the Kino Lorber 4K Blu-ray release is probably the greatest black and white 4K Blu-ray out there. Now, it's really tough. I'm going to have to do a big comparison one day. Citizen Kane has a great 4K Blu-ray release from the Criterion Collection, which had actually previously released The Night of the Hunter on Blu-ray, and I believe it has some extras that are exclusive still to the Criterion Collection. But if you want the best version of that, the 4K Blu-ray probably has the best transfer, and it looks absolutely gorgeous, that cinematography. Robert Mitchum is amazing in The Night of the Hunter. I love that movie so much, but Citizen Kane is Citizen Kane. You know, it's almost cliche to say that Citizen Kane is the greatest film of all time, but it might very well be, because not only does it still hold up to this very day, but you could see the inspiration on the film industry when you watch this movie. Even in just cinematography, it's one of the best shot films still to this very day. The way we see time-lapse, the way we see transitions, the way we see dissolves, all this stuff. I mean, so many great crane shots. I could go on and on about this movie, and there's a reason why it's at number 1 for me. And it's one of those movies that you could just tell people, like, hey, check out Citizen Kane. They're going to be like, well, am I going to really like it, or is it one of these, like, you know, film class bro movies? No, Citizen Kane is a fantastic film, no matter which way you spin it. It's up there with the greatest films of all time for a good reason. So that was a great question as well. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. And the next one's from Kevin Kruger, and he wrote, what do you think of these casting choices if The Avengers was made in the 80s? Nick Fury, Clint Eastwood, Spider-Man, Michael J. Fox, Doctor Strange, Timothy Dalton, The Punisher, Stallone, Captain America, Tom Cruise, Iron Man, Burt Reynolds, Hulk, Jeff Goldblum, and Thor, Arnold. You know, this is actually a great project to do, is like trying to pick actors from the 80s. I completely agree with you about Nick Fury and Clint Eastwood. Michael J. Fox, that's perfect for Spider-Man. I can't think of anybody else other than Michael J. Fox for that. Doctor Strange, I'm a big Timothy Dalton guy. He definitely has the look for it, Kevin. You're 100% right about that. The Punisher and Stallone. You know, this is one where you probably could go Jean-Claude Van Damme if it comes out in the late 1980s. I could see him doing it. And then, of course, Dolph Lundgren ended up doing him in the early 1990s. But Stallone would definitely be a great choice if you really want to get some of the top actors in there. Iron Man with Burt Reynolds. You know who I would probably go under Iron Man? Like, Burt Reynolds is a good choice, especially if you, like, think about, like, you know, being an alcoholic but still being charming. But I think that Eddie Murphy really would fit in great as Iron Man, especially if, like, Tom Cruise is playing a different role. Like, Tom Cruise might be really good for Iron Man, too, but he also would definitely, I think, shine as Captain America, so I really want to keep that there. But Eddie Murphy, I think, could definitely pull off Iron Man. Hulk, Jeff Goldblum, I mean, that's perfect. That is Jeff Goldblum can play a scientist and play. He really would capture what I think Mark Ruffalo's tone is perfectly for the 1980s. And then Thor Arnold. I mean, come on. That writes itself. So Chris Hemsworth is almost the modern day Arnold Schwarzenegger. You know, we're never going to get another Arnold, but if you're in the 1980s, you're getting Arnold in the Avengers somehow, absolutely as Thor. And the next question is from Nick Chang, and he wrote, what are your top westerns, John? Here are mine, and I just picked up the Kino Lorber, A Fistful of Dollars 4K to complete my Dollars trilogy. And he has at number 1, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. At number 2, The Wild Bunch. At number 3, The Searchers. Number 4, Rio Bravo. At number 5, Unforgiven. Number 6, The Outlaw Josie Wells. At number 7, A Few Dollars More. At number 8, Stagecoach. At number 9, 3:10 to Yuma, the remake. And number 10, Red River. That's actually a great top 10, Nick. And some of those are on my list, and I made a list as well. And we'll start from the bottom and work our way up. Earlier in this video, we were talking about Seven Samurai, and I said that Seven Samurai was remade in the United States as The Magnificent Seven. Well, that's my number 10, The Magnificent Seven. This is a great Western with a great 4K Blu-ray that you guys definitely should check out. You know, you see a young Charles Bronson in that movie, which is always fun to see, but it's just overall such a great movie. At number 9, I actually reviewed this earlier in the year, and this is one I just caught up to. I had never seen it before, but Bone Tomahawk, starring Kurt Russell. This is a rare Western horror film that you absolutely need to check out if you've never seen it before. My cousin Dennis was telling me for years that I would love this movie. He was not wrong, and I mean, it is brutal. And number 8, I have The Searchers, which is always widely considered one of the greatest Westerns of all time, one of John Wayne's best performances. It also features some of the greatest shots in Western history. It really set the mold for like those almost anti-Westerns, but still, it is such a great film. At number 7, I have High Plains Drifter. This is a great Clint Eastwood Western. Also has a great Kino Lorber 4K Blu-ray. If you've never seen High Plains Drifter, and this is kind of one you kind of skimmed over when you were rewatching some of the great Clint Eastwood Westerns, I definitely say, hey, check out High Plains Drifter. At number 6, and this might seem low to some people, but if we're talking about the Dallas trilogy, we're talking Sergio Leone, and he is one of the greatest spaghetti Western directors of all time. You have to talk about The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. One of the best Amira Morricone scores of all time. It's probably the most famous of that. This is obviously one of the most famous Westerns of all time, and it's probably one of Clint Eastwood's most famous performances of all time. And number 5, just because I love the 1980s, I'm going to go Silverado. I only picked one movie from the 1980s. I could have gone Young Guns also, or even Young Guns 2, but I think Silverado is a fantastic Western. It features so many big actors like Kevin Kline, Kevin Costner, Danny Glover's in this movie, and it just feels like an 80s movie that just happens to take place in the West. It moves along at a quick pace. It's so entertaining, and it's definitely one, if you haven't seen it, that's another one you just kind of skipped over, definitely check out Silverado. At number 4, Tombstone. This movie is one of the most famous Westerns of all time for good reason. Kurt Russell's amazing in this movie as Wyatt Earp, but I think the best performance, and a lot of people probably will agree with me, is Val Kilmer in this film, and he has some of the most quotable lines probably in film history with "I'll be your Huckleberry," and I think this is also Val Kilmer's best performance. He really shows his acting chops. There's a lot of times where I'll give Val Kilmer some crap. I always kind of feel like sometimes he's a little bit generic, but then you show me Tombstone, you go, nope. That is an amazing performance. And there are so many other great performances in this movie as well. I love seeing Sam Elliott and Sam Elliott's mustache pop up in anything, so I was so happy to see him in this movie. I mean, Tombstone has, again, some of the most quotable lines, even if it's not just from Val Kilmer. It's just got so many others, and it's funny because this is another Wyatt Earp movie that came out the next year, I believe, but it pales in comparison to Tombstone, which is definitely one of the greatest Westerns of all time. And then at number 3, I got The Great Silence, directed by Sergio Corbucci, who's probably most famous directing the original Django film, which is another 1960s Westerns, but I think that 1968's The Great Silence, first of all, this is a winter Western film. I mean, the snow is a huge part of this movie. Our protagonist can't talk, hence the name The Great Silence, and he's out there for revenge. This is another one of those really brutal Western movies, and yeah, it would be my favorite spaghetti Western if it wasn't for my number 2, Once Upon a Time in the West, which is another Sergio Leone film. I love Sergio Leone, and I love his Westerns, and I think Once Upon a Time in the West is his magnum opus and his greatest film and his greatest Western film of all time. Features a stacked cast, including Henry Fonda playing the villain, which was rare for him. You also get another Charles Bronson performance in there. And this movie is just, and of course, and then you also get Jason Robards in this movie. It has so many, and then this one really just captures, I'm almost forgetting, the amazing Amira Morricone score. It's all of this put into a melting pot. Then you get the amazing production design, the amazing cinematography, you know, the attention to detail, like how dirty everybody looks, how sunburnt everyone looks. I could go on and on about Once Upon a Time in the West, and that's still only my number 2 because number 1 is Clint Eastwood's masterpiece, the best film he ever directed, and probably his best performance, Unforgiven. This movie, it's unbelievable. Not only is Clint Eastwood great as William Munning, he does a great job directing actors like Morgan Freeman, who does a phenomenal job in this movie. Gene Hackman won an Academy Award as Little Bill, and Little Bill is a real asshole, but Gene Hackman does such a good job in this movie, and that's why Unforgiven is my favorite Western of all time. Thank you so much, Nick. That was a great question. I really do appreciate it. And the last question is exactly where we started with Sprazy110. He said, roughly what percentage of your collection did you buy new versus used? Well, actually, surprisingly, I don't have much used in my collection. I would be surprised if it's over 10 overall. So I'd have to say about 99% of my collection is new. The reason being is I just don't really like buying used, and everywhere by me that sells used doesn't have really too many options, or if they do have too many options, it's usually junk or the same stuff over and over again. Also, FYE sells used in the mall. and they basically charge new prices for used, and that's why they never sell anything there. So that's a little bit disappointing, but they're one of the only places you can still walk into and look at physical media. So I don't want to knock them too much, but they're definitely overcharging for used when it comes to the 4K Blu-rays. And there's just not too many thrift stores around here. I can't really do the thrift store hunting like a lot of other places. I wish I could, but so really most of my stuff is pretty much brand new. But that's a good question. I really appreciate you asking. And anyway, guys, that's going to do it here for us on another episode of Let's Talk Physical Media. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode, and if you did, don't forget to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, share this video, turn notifications on. Maybe even want to become a channel member like our producers John Doe Juggalo, Jason Martin, Mr. Smelly Potato, or you can even become a channel director like Frank from Frank's Media and Reviews. But if you got no money to throw our way, guys, don't you worry about it. We just hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, get out in those streets and tell your friends about us. And then we'll be seeing you around.